There's a famous saying that alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So in this video we're going to talk about how 3 minor pieces overtake the powerful queen. So we're going to see 2 games that just showcases the examples of how that can be. So there's 2 aspects of how they're better. So first of all, the queen is very vulnerable. So whichever piece attacks it, bishop or knight, the queen has to move away. But if the flip side happens, the queen attacks one of the minor pieces, they can stay there or be defended by one of the minor pieces. And the third one, do something productive. So that's a really good thing. So also, the queen is not really a good defender as attacker. So the queen can not only attack one thing, and defensive-wise, she's a really very terrible defender for the queen. The second thing is, the queen can only attack in defense so much. They really light attack and really light defense, whereas the pieces can defend more and attack more together. So we're going to see this in 2 games right now. So the first one is the example game. So we're going to see how the coordination of the pieces will be overcoming the queen by itself. So let's see. Don't worry about the opening moves, but we're going to just transport ourselves in the scenario. We have 3 pieces versus the queen. So we'll find out. So e4, c5. Now f3 is a Sicilian. Just jump starting where the bounce comes in to play this one, okay? Knight g4. And now the fun begins. The imbalance begins. We have 3 minor pieces versus the queen. After this knight d5, bishop d4, they take our queen. Then we take on e3 of the bishop with check. So the king has to move. And now this one, we just do bishop takes back on b6. So after bishop takes d4, bishop takes back, and now we have the scenario. We have 3 minor pieces versus the 1 queen. So we have this one on g4, c6, and b6, and against this 1 lonely queen on d3. So let's see how we prove that we're better. So actually this is much better for black. We're going to see how we prove it. So it's white to move, so he goes c3, and now black goes bishop b6 back. And now b3 happens, and now f6 to create a hidey hole for the bishop to go to f7 in the future. So in this game, rook ad1 happened, and now rook ad8 happens to defend this d file. So queen f3, and now f5. Attacking e4, so h3 taking e4, swap this one, queen e4, rook f6, and now after g4 we go this simple move d5, attacking the queen. So the queen has to move again away from the attack. So the queen is very vulnerable to the little old pawn d5. It's really threatening to her, so she has to move away, constantly moving away, which way. It's really crazy to see the queen dance around like this. So after queen e2, black goes simply bishop f7, going back like we want to. So after f5, we just take this one, they take back, and now we go king f8. So we want to make sure that we have our king safe. The really most valuable thing to overcome this queen is to make our king safe. So we'll do that right now with king h8. So this one, white goes b4, advances the pawn, but now we have a really direct threat of rook h6, attacking h3. So in the game, he made a mistake after rook f3 because the bishop f5 is a skewer or just a pin, wins the material. So you're probably asking, why do they do queen e3? Defending everything. Defending h3, defending us against a skewer. Why do we do that? The reason why is because we have a really good move. It's black d4. Try to do bishop e5, check, and things are really not going to look so good for white. And it's like, why did I do c4? Everything's good, right? Right? No. So knight takes knight e5. It'll be just win the pawn. And the queen would be just outplayed and outgunned by the knight and bishop alone because they basically converge on a target, and the queen alone cannot barely defend anything. So they defend again, like out the queen, so the queen is gone. So white has to move the queen again and basically dash around and lose a pawn, and black is going to be very much win the game. So instead, in the game, white tried to do rook f3. After bishop h5, trying to hold on to this one for dear life. Rook df1, bishop c7, and for some reason white wanted to do f6, but no matter. Rook takes f6, queen e3. Maybe he wants to have some way to move the queen out of the way. But after bishop b6, yet again, the queen has to dance away. So queen e2, rook g8, and white resigns. It's not much that they can do to take the pressure off the queen, and the game is over, and black wins the game officially. So this is one example. Let's look at another example about having two super grandmasters duke it out, and having the balance of the three minor pieces versus the queen, and let's see how the white player has the three minor pieces won against Sergey Karjakin. So in the game that we have against Sergey Karjakin, also known as the Minister of Defense. So the guy who played against Sergey Karjakin is Vasili Ivanchuk. So a really strong player, and he played against Sergey Karjakin with three minor pieces against the queen. So let's see how that came out. So after d4, don't worry about the opening again. So we're going to be fast forwarding to where the key material advance comes in. Queen f3, e5, bishop b7, take there, queen e3, castle queen side, knight c6. Now we come to the part where Vasili Ivanchuk discovered how to win with their pieces. So to do that, he just did queen sack and e6. Pawn takes that, and knight takes e6. Really, really aggressive move to attack the queen and the pawn g7. So Sergey Karjakin, as much as he's really good at defense, he just did queen e5. And now Ivanchuk can resist and take on g7 with check. So Karjakin moved that, king of fate, knight to e6 back again, check. And now Sergey Karjakin calculated that king f7 was safe. I would never play this one against the Super Grandmaster as black. The flip side, to walk into a discover check against the Super Grandmaster is like nowhere to be found in my mind. But he calculated that this line will be beneficial for black's defense somehow. But after rook he1, he took on the rook. But you're probably thinking in your mind, why do we do queen b8? Just getting out of the way, no worries about that. So there's actually a forced variation to win the queen. The continuation is knight takes c5, check, king g6, bishop takes knight. So you had to let the knight go, because if the king takes the knight, knight d7 wins the queen. So the white is definitely just totally winning, and black will be resigning the game very soon. So that is why, after all this calculation, he just played queen e1. It was not a very good move, a blunder in fact. Instead, maybe he should play something like queen g5 check, or maybe bishop f2. That's really good. But instead, he played queen c1, and assuming that he'll take back with the rook on e1. It will should be really bad for white, because bishop f2, reasonable defense. But he miscalculated that white does not have to take the queen. He could do knight takes c5, check, and later, only later, take the queen. So king g6, and now rook takes e1. King g5, knight takes b7. And it's really nervous for black because it's imbalanced again. It's rook versus a bishop and a couple pawns. So more pawns for white, and black has more heavy pieces. So let's see how Ivanchuk finishes the game off to win. So he knight d4. So knights loving basic squares and also central squares. So knight d4 is a really good move. So he did the same thing for his knight on b7. So rook f8. The plan is to go knight d4. That's the plan, to attack this one, this one. So Ivanchuk responds that to do f3 to block this entirely. So this one, they go Karjakin deals d4, knight to e4, knight ce4, knight takes e4, now knight takes b3, takes the b3 back, and now a5. So the key is, for defending this one is black, you want to trade out the pawns. So less pawns there are, you have more opportunity to draw and make it even. So white has more pawns, so want to chip away at the amount of pawns they have to make more likely to draw the game. So in this case, rook g4 is played by Ivanchuk, king f6, knight e4, king e5, and now rook h4 to eye this pawn and a7. So a5 was played, so take the pawn there, and Ivanchuk was not afraid of this kind of play of rook e1. So rook e1 is scary, but not scary enough for Ivanchuk. So knight c5 saying, oh, go ahead. So he does that, king d2, and here's hoping that the game will be just over after this fork, taking b4, maybe rook takes b4. So in the game, Karjakin said rook g8, trying to attack on g2. So a lot of people will play, oh, just a check because they're playing like monkeys. The rook d8 check is like, I do a check. So you have to respond. I say, okay, I'll do a check, a counterattack check against you, so you lose. So don't play this one. So Karjakin knew that it's better, more productive to do rook g8 threat on d2. So Ivanchuk played d3, simply. Rook f1, king e2, rook b1, then rook takes b4. Simple enough. So king g5, attacking the knight, knight e4, centralizing the knight again, king c6, h4. So you see that knight is defending g3, so that allows h4 to be possible. So it's really odd. So for black now to play, so rook h1, rook c4 check, king there, b4. If they go rook d8 like you did, rook c5, and now Karjakin has to do something desperate. So he has to be aggressively attacking the white camp. So the best defense for him is some sort of attack, pressure, or else he'll be, if he's a sitting duck, he'll be slowly grinding out to a loss. So he has to do something like rook a8. So c3, and the reason why they go c3 not c4 is they want to have a shield on the third rank. After they go rook a2, they'll go after rook a3, after king e3. So after rook a2, king e3, now is a shield by the c3 pawn. No rook a3. Rook e1 instead, king f4, and now Karjakin had a really good defense after rook f1, rook h5, now rook a8. So question for you guys, will you take this pawn a7? No, don't do that. So if you do that, you just fall into Sergey Karjakin's plan is administrative defense. He got this nickname for some reason. So rook f8 check happens. So you have to move the king and you lose a pawn f3, and it's just everything that Karjakin wants. Just chip away the pawns, make your king unsafe, and black has more chances to draw. So instead, Ivanchuk played the right move, rook h6 check. King b5, knight d6 check, king e4, and now, only now, rook f7. So if they do rook f8, now we can interpose that with the knight or rook. So let's say, instead, in the game, he did king b3, attacking c3. And now, Ivanchuk defend that with a rook. So rook d8 and knight f5, and the game is over, absolutely over. Karjakin resigned, and Ivanchuk won the game. So hopefully learn about the qualities about the three minor pieces versus the queen. You see how most of the queen dances around the board, is not defending the king as much as the game right now, and the coordination of attacks of the minor pieces were overwhelming like a tidal wave that overcame the queen pretty much every time. Thank you for watching. I'm hoping that you have value of this video, and if you want to know how to prepare for tournaments like Advanced Foil do, I have a video down in the description about talking about the exact topic. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.